Hey guys, welcome in. This is a bit of a different type of content. It's a new one. It's early access initial thoughts. We do play a lot of early access games here, and it's not a full review because the full game's not out yet, and I want to save that for once we've fully played through, like we do with our other reviews. This is a little bit different. This is just sort of our initial thoughts on it and its potential right now today at this time of release. For full transparency, I did receive the game for free, but I also received no kickbacks or benefits for you guys interacting with this content or the game itself. This is just purely my thoughts from my experience playing it for about 6 hours on the hardest setting. We're going to go through 4 main points doing this. We're going to go through what is the game, what's good about it, where's an opportunity that it could improve, tips for people that do want to jump straight in and give it a play, and then finally just a quick conclusion wrapping up some of those core points. Hope you guys enjoy. Alright, so what is it? As you probably guessed from some of the footage you've already seen, this is a city builder game. Its unique element is the fact that you're building your village on top of a living creature, in this case Onbu, sort of a stony looking dinosaur that's trying to make its way through the world, and you're sort of building your village in a symbiotic or parasitic relationship on top of its back. There is no starting point. It's got procedurally generated terrain, and even you'll notice between these 3 starting points that we had, the back actually changes as well each time. So there's a little bit of RNG involved, but the gameplay kind of unfolds pretty consistently, no matter what your start is. In the same way that Frostpunk has the cold, and Endzone has radiation and all the other elements of the sort of Fallout vibed post-apocalypse, this game has its own challenges too. So not only are you trying to live on top of this dinosaur that you need to help keep alive as it is keeping you alive, but you also encounter poison, different biomes, and other elements as this dinosaur continues on its journey throughout the world that'll impact your village and how your village grows and develops. So what's good about the game? Actually, a lot. For an early access game, this is surprisingly well polished. The building mechanics are extremely solid just as a point to start. I had only 1 bug in everything in my playthrough, and that, again, was about 6 hours, 3 attempts. We're gonna get cleaned up by this storm for sure. Maybe I can get Onbu to wait just for a minute. Good boy. Good boy. The interactions with the Onbu are really cool. They're a nice novelty, there's something unique, and they definitely set it apart from your standard city builder. It makes it a much more immersive experience with how you're moving through these biomes and the world around you. And it makes it quite compelling as you continue on your adventure and discover new areas. It's quite unique to sort of have this bond with effectively your living city. Onba! The f***, mate? Another really nice touch is the developers have thought ahead about making content creators' lives a little easier, and they've built integrations into Twitch. We've played a lot of these different city builders, from Prison Architect to Frostpunk, and many others, and manually or having to create workarounds to add viewers' names as villagers, and these sorts of things are quite clumsy. What this game's done really well is they've already built those integrations in, and they're stress-free to set up. You just need to link your Twitch account when you start, which is really handy. We had our own villagers straight from stream without me having to do anything, and the stream got to vote on whether Onbu was going to listen at the crossroads or not, despite my protestations. Another really cool touch is doubling down on the fact that you've built your city on top of a living creature, which I think they had to do to make this game really stand out. How you can interact with Onbu is quite varied. You can truly be a parasite, or you can truly be symbiotic with it. You can mine it for resources, stripping the spikes off its back which will cause it to lose trust in you, or even drilling into it for other resources like more stone or other things like its blood. So you can do some pretty messed up stuff to this poor creature that you're living on. Or you can build it medicine, give it a pat, and do things to make it happier and move through the world and live longer, happier life. it is a living creature that you're on top of, and the game really embodies this. The Onbu's health, tiredness, poison levels, and hunger are displayed at all times, and you've got to keep track on it, because ultimately if Onbu goes down, your village goes down. If you like city builders, there's a lot to love here. It's very solid, it is unique, and it has its own little niche that it's carved out quite beautifully for itself. I had an absolute blast as a fan of city builders, and I'm really looking forward to playing more of it and seeing more of the content come out. But, like everything, there's always room for improvement. And only as constructive criticism from my personal opinion, here's a few things that I think could really make this game just go to that next level. Rooms for improvement are really nitpicky from my end. I think they've done an absolute solid launch, so it made it a little bit hard to sort of pull stuff out without it being a little bit ambitious or a little bit, like I said, nitpicky. But something that I think the game really could do a little bit better, as a fan of quite difficult challenges, is adding complexity and depth to the gameplay mechanics. They are quite simple to master if you're a fan of the genre. I played on the hardest setting from the start without any tutorial, and by my third playthrough we basically had it mastered. And that was in about 5 or 6 hours. But I've played a lot of these games, so it was once I've sort of figured out the main approach to take to be efficient, I was pretty quick to master. Things that could do very well here are doubling down on the effects of the biomes, which we'll talk about a little bit later, or also having other layers to the citizens, such as happiness, higher levels of tech and more building complexity, allowing you to make more advanced things. To then deal with these other issues. So for example, if the cold biome actually affected your population a little bit more, and as you journey farther into the world, the cold gets more extreme, you need to build these materials to keep your people warm while they work outside, otherwise they could die from exposure. Elements like that. And if you're worried about the casual player being able to then engage, all these options could easily be toggleable or adjustable like in most city builders. But I think for people that do enjoy a harder challenge, if you're a fan of the genre, you're going to overcome this quite quickly. The 40% poisoned himself. God damn. Oh. That's very abrupt. The story's quite non-existent. There's a nice initial opening scene and you get the concept explained to you very well. From there, it's more of just a city builder game with some soft exploration elements put on top. It'd be very nice to see if they could build out some more scenario type approaches similar to what we do see in Frostpunk. Just by way of an example, you could have a scenario where it's a frozen world or a purely poisoned forest world, and the poison varies as you go, adding this layer of difficulty and uniqueness to each playthrough that the standard game in its one mode at the moment sort of lacks. Let's see, there's some green screen issues up there, that's all good. So I put this off from the initial point to the end because I wanted to sort of go a little bit deeper into it. Having more biomes or more biome impact and other creatures. The world feels a little bit more hollow than I would like, even for an early access game. You don't really see too much in the way of other creatures or things within that world. There's an occasional little thing that really jumps at you. For example, we saw a giant ribcage on the side of the desert that looked like it may have been another Onbu at some point, which was very cool touch. But it'd be nice to see as you move through these biomes some form of life. The argument could be made that poison has removed a lot of this life, but I feel like if Onbu's still around and there's nomads walking around, there's ways to do with the poison that probably mean that not every creature has been wiped out, would be my gut feel. And you could lean into the fantasy settings. Have these tall-necked creatures or birds as the predominant surviving creatures because they can keep their heads above that poison for the majority of time. Or potentially the poison is heavier in these forest elements, weaker in the ice and the desert biomes, and have your creatures around those biomes, just to give the world a little bit more life and variety, which then could fix one of our earlier issues with depth. The ability to then bring some of these creatures on board, have a whole husbandry tree that allows you to gain other materials, other resources, and another layer of complexity and depth to the game that could be very fun to engage with. We're gonna get cleaned up anyway. And then the environmental impacts there. For example, in the desert, it's more difficult to get water, but you can use cactuses instead. To be frank, as long as you sort of stay on top of your resource allocation issues, which you should master quite quickly, we didn't run into a problem with water or food once. Poison was the only thing that we really struggled with, which was good because it was a challenge, But yeah, the resource element is not too difficult to overcome. We're gonna get the tail end of it. All he needed to do was move when I asked him to move, and we would have been fine. Another really cool opportunity, if this game really succeeds, and the developers can justify putting even more resources into it, that I would love to see, and it's sort of in vein with the scenario element, is this same concept and the same basic mechanics, but applied to different elements. For example, a flying onbu, a water onbu, new environments, biomes, challenges, and things that we can see and do with the same sort of gimmick or unique element, which is the building on top of a creature. It'd be very cool to see where they take that concept and build new worlds and adventures for us to explore. I, for one, would happily pay, you know, another $10, $15, even $20 comfortably for one of those scenarios. Was he? Oh my god, look at what we lost! I'm sorry, birdie. I'm sorry. Get some rest. Piece of shit. Damn it. That sandstorm f***ed us up. A big one. For those of you that want to dive straight in like me, maybe on the hardest setting, and maybe without doing the tutorial, some tips that butchered our first 2 runs that would really help just get you off the ground without taking all the challenge away. To get yourself started, the workers' hut and houses. Getting those down increases the productivity of your villagers exponentially. When we were learning the game, we lost days trying to get some research going first, or some of these other components going first, because the villagers just are not productive without either, or preferably both, a house and the workers' hut. Build up a lump sum of those initial resources, just the basic stone and wood, because you're going to chew through it so quickly, and once you've allocated your people to multiple jobs, you'll find that your remaining people to do these generic things like pick up the basic resources and move them around will dwindle to next to nothing extremely quickly, unless you're very lucky picking up some extra villagers. So having an extra stockpile before you get the more advanced jobs like stone cutters and the research going will save you many headaches. There's no point having that research or having a stone cutter if you've just got no stone to cut. I definitely would recommend locating your base somewhat centrally, maybe a little bit more towards the back. You'll find that you need that compost from dung a little bit more than you're going to need to go to the front. The main 2 things at the front are the horn and the trebuchet, but you can activate them when you need them. And on the hardest setting, I used the horn at the crossroads and maybe at 2 or 3 scenarios, and I didn't have to use the trebuchet once. I had food prepared because we got close to needing it, but we managed to get very lucky, I guess. And Onbu managed to find his food as he just went. And then final free tip, get every nomad. I don't care if they're poisoned, I don't care if they're hungry, I don't care if they're sick, I don't care if there's one of them, I don't care if he has 6 arms, he can pick up more rocks. Get every nomad. You've got no other way to expand your population, and it's very hard. My biggest bottleneck, once I had the basics of the systems down, was just I needed more people. I built everything out, it was sitting there, the infrastructure was ready to go. But I just didn't have the people to run it, so we just sat there comfortably until we found the next group of people, and then that was what was ramping up our productivity. So definitely something to be mindful of. Just grab them. You're gonna need them, and if they die, well, that's on you. We have demolished this motherfucker's back. Like, actually just cleaned it. All in the name of progress. In conclusion, an absolutely solid early access game. In fact, it's probably one of the best I've touched, and it's definitely one of the best that I've touched in the city builder space. I've loved the city builder genre for a very long time, ever since Roller Coaster Tycoon first came out. But the reality is, a lot of people come at this genre quite sloppily, and these guys clearly care about their project. They put together a really novel idea that I've really enjoyed playing, and I think it's only going to get better. Even at its current price, I would have happily paid for it, having played it now for 5-6 hours myself. And as that depth and more elements and features rolled into it, which it inevitably will, it's only going to get better. If you love this genre, just pick it up. You're not going to regret it. If you're sort of umming and ahhing about the genre, maybe watch a little bit more, have a bit of a think, maybe try and grab it on a sale. But if you wanted to step into the genre, this is probably a pretty good one to do it on. It's Simple enough that on the easy modes, you're going to be able to enjoy it without being punished. On the harder modes, there is still a challenge, but it's no Frostpunk. So, you keep that in mind. But point is, I think there's so much potential that you can do with what you've built. There's nothing wrong with charging for it. No one expects you to do it for free. I just want more of this. And I think there's lots of opportunities in the setting and the world and the creation that the developers here have built to go out and do that. So I really hope they do. This is cute. Indie team for Switzerland. Just launched in early access. Honestly, this is cute. I really like this. This is what I love about small teams versus big studios. Is like just that extra element of personal touch. Alright guys, I hope you guys did enjoy this quick little thoughts. If you have any comments or questions, please jump them down there. Don't be afraid to ask, happy to answer. And we're probably going to be playing more games like this on Twitch in the near future. In the meantime, if you want, I'd recommend the Bioshock playlist because that Bioshock review is coming next week.